exciting panel coming up called 3D Printing in Action, COVID-19, with Karina Popovich, who's the founder of 3D Printing in Action, COVID-19, and 3D Printing Response. And Karina and the rest of her panel, including Marieross, who is the Fabric Mask Executive 3D Printing Co-Lead Makers for COVID-19, as well as Alysa, who you do have permission to turn on your cameras now, everyone, so go ahead. And Alysa, who is the head of design, co-lead of Sewing Track for the community and the co-manager for Makers of COVID-19. So I've prepared a great panel for all of you today, and I will let them get to it. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you for having us.
Really nice introduction, Maddie. We are super happy to be here, and I'm gonna kick off by sharing my screen. And I know you guys are gonna see the type remote setup, and it's gonna look wonky, but now it should not. And you guys should be seeing my screen. But thank you all for your time and for coming here today to type and to our panel. We would love to tell you all about Makers for COVID-19, the wonderful organization that we started, and kind of tell you a little bit more about all the exciting 3D printing that was happening early on in the pandemic to really help doctors and really step up and help the world face the crisis that was going on. So I'd like to start off by telling you a little bit about how Makers for COVID-19 initially started. As you probably know, being involved in the 3D printing community early in February and even in March, there were a ton of makers and 3D printer owners who were just scrambling to do something about the pandemic. Whether it was trying to print ventilator valves that we soon realized are not a good idea to print, to printing face shields and doing other things. And Makers for COVID-19 came out of that same wave where we really wanted to make it possible for everyone and anyone to produce PPE and give back to their communities. Specifically, we focused on face shields and fabric masks, which we knew were kind of proven to actually help and are less likely to do harm. So we decided to focus on those, and we got together a community of over 350 makers who were printing face shields day and night, printing ear savers. You can see some of the pictures right here, sewing fabric masks, and all to really give back to the medical community and make sure that doctors and nurses and medical workers can have the personal protective equipment that they need. And when this organization started, we really wanted to kind of be there to give makers everything they needed, whether that be the funding to cover all of their expenses when making PPE, finding hospitals or facilities to donate this PPE to, or even just having guidance on what things to print and what things are not recommended to print. So we really kind of wanted to be the all-stop shop when it came to getting anyone started with producing PPE. And we very quickly snowballed into a multifaceted organization that was distributing PPE all across the U.S. To the Navajo Nation, to California, to New York City, and even across the world over to Kenya and Nigeria and Ghana. So we got to do a lot of really incredible work early on in the pandemic. And throughout the pandemic till now, we've been able to produce 82,000 units of PPE. And that's all thanks to our wonderful community of makers. And since having made all that impact, we have decided that we want to really continue the spirit of making and continue this whole energy of, letting makers step up to solve bigger problems. So we recently started a new program that I will let Mary and Alysa tell you all about. But without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Mary to tell you more about our wonderful team, which I am so grateful for because they really make all of this possible.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Mary, and I lead the sewing track alongside Alysa. And together, we oversee sew teams as they create fabric masks. We also work with Kevin, who leads our 3D printing track, and that's where students are able to create face shields and ear savers. But none of what we do would be possible without all our other execs on the team. Karina, who heads our funds and sponsors. Amy, who leads our programming, so she creates fun events like Make and Chill, where all the makers come together and we play games, or we can create some 3D print, some sew, like that. And Alexa, she's working on our newsletter for this month, and that basically summarizes all of the fun things all the amazing things that our makers are doing. And Mia is working on recruiting more members for our ambassador program. And the ambassador program is, next slide, Karina. So the ambassador program is a way for students to form organizations within their communities to be able to create these fabric masks and face shields and ear savers. But in a way, it goes beyond that. It goes beyond creating PPE, because these students create organizations. They are able to conduct outreach and develop leadership, collaboration skills. And I think that's the best part about this program, is that there's a community of communities, basically. And so there's a network of inspiring young makers, and the job of the executive program is to provide this mentorship throughout the span of the program. And through that, everyone is able to make such a great difference in their community. So I'll pass it on to Alyssa now to talk about the cohorts and where we are now.
Okay. Thank you, Mary. Can everybody hear me? I hope this works. Okay. So while the organization has been around since the beginning of the pandemic in March, we officially started with cohort 1 in August. Since then, we've already onboarded a total of 10 teams, including NYC First, a robotics team organization at Cornell Tech, and Maker Lab, which is the makerspace for 3D printing and general creating in Illinois. We currently have over 40 active members in the organization, but have also had many past volunteers and contributors. So amongst these current members, at least 1,000 PPE and 100 fabric masks have already been donated, which is pretty amazing. We are currently fully funded and have a total of 30 machines across the 10 teams to help create. And we were also able to partner with organizations. Karina, is the slide okay? Okay, cool. Like Get Us PPE and have helped frontline workers attain their needed resources. We have also partnered with Nation of Makers and Matter Hackers that provide us with material funding like fabric, elastic, and filament. They also help us have guest speakers or guest mentors, as well as creating opportunities for the makers beyond the program. That being said, when people join, they should know that they are fully supported and that they don't need to worry about a thing. In cohort 1, we were also able to equip the makers with mentors, as well as monthly workshops to learn about leadership, engineering concepts, outreach, funding, and much more. We are also able to sponsor them and reimburse them on purchases so that they can freely make and donate without worrying heavily about expenses. Through this program, as time goes on, we are hoping that they will become their own independent team and flourish as we help behind the scenes. A really significant achievement of cohort 1 will be when one team member cross-teamed with the other makers in the organization from New York, Florida, and Philadelphia to make a total of at least 200 face shields and fabric masks in Kenya. And it's really awesome because normally they don't really talk to each other, but cross-teaming has definitely helped them connect with each other in this program. If you could go to the next slide, I'll be talking about cohort 2. All right, so we're just getting started. Starting in May, we hope to onboard an additional 40 teams of makers from across the country. One of our main goals is to have at least one chapter or team in every state. We hope to create a more seamless and efficient way to standardize the system for the creation and donation of PPE, as well as reimbursements. Not only that, the executive team has been planning on expanding and rebranding from Makers for COVID-19 to Makers for Change, because we want to help more people in the world, and we hope that our makers can contribute to the social impact after COVID-19 by creating more programs that include prosthetics, toys for tots, tents for the homeless, upcycling, laser cutting, and a lot more. We don't want to limit who we help and how we help, so anyone with a background of sewing or fashion design to cooking to 3D printing can help. I'll now be passing it on to Karina to wrap it up.
Jumping over quickly to unmute myself, but thank you all for being here and listening to our presentation. We wanted to let you know that if you know of a student or a teacher who might be interested in being part of our program for Cohort 2, yes, we're going to be doing a bunch of really exciting things with PPE, prosthetics, and animal prosthetics and toys. And we're going to be 3D printing all of it, laser cutting, and doing a bunch of other exciting things. So if this is something that you know a student or a teacher who might be interested in, please send along this quick 30-second interest form. All it asks you is just your name and your email, so please feel free to fill it out too. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to us at makersforcovid19@gmail.com. But with that said, thank you so much all for your time. And we will now open it up for questions. I'll jump over to our Q&A. But cool. Any questions that we have going so far? Cool. Are you looking for makers all over the world? That is a great question, and I can take that one on. We used to have makers in different chapters across the world, but we ended up not being able to keep up with them. With that said, though, we are always happy to help makers around the world and happy to extend our resources and support wherever we can. So if there's anything that we can help you with, please shoot us an email and we will try to collaborate with you and help out. Awesome. Next question we have going. What was the biggest problem that you encountered when trying to roll out this program across all locations? I'll let Alyssa or Mary take that one on.
Hopefully I heard that my headphones were being a little weird. Is this better? Or does it sound weird still?
You should take them off. I feel like.
Okay. Well, then Mary, can you take it on while I fix my headphones?
What happened? Take the question off?
On. Yeah.
So I think one of the problems on I guess for the sewing track for creating I guess having this program go across all locations is to provide a sense of communication between those locations. So we're now using Slack, but we always try to get everybody onboarded on Slack and everybody to participate on Slack so that we're able to sort of create this communication between these different areas and so that the distance isn't that much of an issue.
Also just jump in here. I know Alyssa's going to join us soon, but a lot of the challenges that we're going through right now are figuring out a way to have a streamlined system with so many locations and so many different circumstances and situations. It's really hard to figure out how do we create a one-stop shop for all, and how do we create something that can be standardized. So that's a lot of the issues that we've been tackling. And a lot of what we're really doing is just kind of working as a team to talk through these issues and come up with the best plan for what we think is most standardized. And of course, we realize this is a huge learning process. So we're kind of taking it one step at a time, trying something out, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't, and then just moving forward till we get to what we feel like works. So that's the best way to answer that question. I'm gonna jump to Elizabeth's question, which is, what would you say was the most difficult obstacle for you? I have made PPE in the UK, and ours was getting BSI approval for use in medical settings. So this is a very relevant question, especially early on in February and March. I feel like that was the time when people were really crazy and hyped up about printing ventilator valves and oxygen splitters and all these kind of, I would say, risky things. I think for us, we inherently, and even the Montana masks and versions of N95 masks, we at Makers for COVID-19, we kind of strayed away from those just because there was this natural tendency to feel like anything that was plastic that was made not in a completely sanitary and sterile environment is probably not 100% safe. So we avoided that for things like face shields and fabric masks, which we knew would have an easier kind of go around. With that said, we didn't have any issues with the NIH or any of the kind of big organizations on that side. I think at that time there was just a bunch of files being approved and a bunch of files being tested, whether they be by MIT Media Labs or by other groups. So we're kind of just, for us, we didn't do anything risky, so we didn't need to get approval, is the short answer. But approval in the US was definitely not something that I believe was granted easily either. It was just a bunch of people experimenting and trying and learning new things. And I think that's also paved a long way for the different kind of technologies that can be used when it comes to, medical emergencies. But I think that's the best way I could answer your question, Elizabeth. Alyssa, Mary, if you have any thoughts, feel free to chime in. Cool. I will jump to the next question. Alyssa, it's glad to have you back.
I hope this is working now. Is it much better?
I think it's just about the same, but
then I don't know. Then I'm not sure if I can fix that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, all good. We'll just jump into the next question, which is, what's the first step in making a 3D printing green company? Is there a way to make a 3D printing green company? Any thoughts on that?
I was actually looking into this because I work a lot. I really work with 3D printers, and for COVID-19, I took upon the sewing machine. But I was thinking maybe reusing scrap filament, because prints aren't always perfect. So reusing scrap filament, and also with the face shields, I think it's great that the plastic is going to a good cause in a way, and maybe there's a way to reuse that, or find a way to basically reuse that so that it's more green. Or maybe use filaments that are actually safer. I know one of our teams is experimenting with different types of filaments that are recycled, I believe. So there's a company that makes recycled filaments, and they're testing out how what's its effect on the prints. So it's great that our teams are experimenting in that area as well.
Yeah, there are a ton of really cool and exciting offerings when it comes to filaments that are more sustainable. There is closed loop plastics, which actually makes filament from Solo cups. A very, very cool, nifty thing. But there's a lot of filament that's being made right now from recycled materials to kind of help with the manufacturing process and not throw away waste. There's also filaments made out of other kind of kooky materials like cannabis, and just other kind of cool things that allow for more sustainability and allow for 3D printing to go more green. But I've also personally noticed a lot more of a trend in going green. I think Prusa announced a statement about going green. There are a few other companies that did something cool too, and it seems to be a really hot topic in the 3D printing community at the moment. We also have another great question from Elijah, and I think this will be a perfect question for Alyssa and Mary to hit on. But you mentioned the projects that you have moving forward, prosthetics and such. How do you decide on the sorts of projects you are taking on?
Originally, when we were brainstorming, is it better now? Okay, good. When we were brainstorming on what projects and different kinds of tracks we wanted to do, we were just like, okay, what do we like to do, and what do our makers like to do? We know that a lot of people in our teams, one of them actually, or two of them actually really love to do prosthetics. They have shown us multiple times the kinds of stuff that they have made. One of them has made a prosthetic hand, and he's only a high school senior, which is incredible. And we want to support our teams and the members by creating programs that will that will help further them in that kind of track. And generally, we just kind of pick what we want to do, and then we'll see where it goes from there. We already have a lot of contacts and a lot of people who are interested in what they want to do. So that's how we just mostly decide on stuff. Karina, if you have anything to add, then you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of it is definitely spurred by the interest of our teams and our teachers who support these teams. So we kind of hear all these great stories about students doing stuff, and we almost wish that there was some better program to make it easier for them to do the things that they love doing. So because of that, we decided to do prosthetics. We're exploring just other cool things that 3D printing can be applied to, and other cool problems that it can be used to solve. And I think a lot of what we're trying to do is, I feel like the whole 3D printing community is pretty familiar with 3D printed prosthetics. But there are a bunch of other cool things that maybe we're less so familiar with, like prosthetics for animals, or even toys, 3D printed toys, or custom 3D printed toys, or 3D printed drones. So I think there's a variety of different projects that we're also trying to expose our students to really show them the endless opportunities of 3D printing.
And then if I can butt in, we also want to include people who aren't STEM-based, because we believe that anybody can really help. You don't have to know a lot about technology to help the community. So some of the programs that we're hoping to have is like upcycling, making tents for the homeless, where 3D printers can print frames, and people who have experience with fabrics can help with the tarps and everything. And we just hope that we can have a lot more people with a diverse amount of experience and knowledge join the organization.
Next question, and a very relevant one at that. What are your plans to scale the organization even after the end of the pandemic? Mary, I think this is your time to shine.
Okay, so I guess this also goes hand in hand with what Alyssa was saying and the previous question, in that we want to explore other ways that we can create things to help our communities, so that not only will so that this organization, because we're rebranding to Makers for Change, so that we can last even after the pandemic. And in order to scale that, I feel like there's always going to be a community of makers. So, like, especially with this panel and everything like that. So I feel like Makers for Change will really take advantage of that initiative in people to create things to help their communities. So I believe that would be our plan for after the pandemic.
Yeah, and I'll just add in to say that we're realizing that the need for PPE is also definitely slowed down, and the need for 3D printed PPE especially. So a lot of what we plan to do is really just take the spirit of makers during the pandemic, and what feels like a whole new platform really to make a difference. And it feels like makers really got the chance to be heard during this pandemic, and are working on really exciting things and are reinvigorated. So we really want to carry that spirit into rebranding to Makers for Change, where we basically have a variety of different tracks. We'll still have a PPE track. We're going to have a prosthetics for humans track, prosthetics for animals, toys track, among so many other really cool tracks, where students can participate and learn about the different types of applications of 3D printing and just work on really cool projects that they enjoy and that they can also make a difference with. And also just to kind of hop into some of the next questions that we have here, but it is totally possible for a team to do multiple tracks. this is something that is very flexible, where we want to provide resources to all of our members and all of our participants. And all we ask is that you commit to a track and have fun with it. So when you join, all you need to do is attend the meetings for your track and participate, and then you should be all set. And feel free to participate in multiple tracks. And that's really kind of the structure of how we're building it out to be. Cool. Now I will jump to another question. How will you be handling more teams? Anyone want to take that on?
I think, okay, so I think what they're asking for is the organization, right? Basically, currently right now, what we have is 10 teams with the mentor or the team leader meeting with us, the executives, and then we have an executive meeting to get an update. When we're expanding or growing our organization, we were thinking of asking more adults and more mentors to oversee the teams, but also having student team leads to overlook the other members within that team, so that the members of the team, they meet with the team leads meet with the executives, and then the executives will just give a really brief update. And the mentors, they're not specifically connected to the school or the team itself. They're just a mentor volunteer or a mentor from another organization that is willing to take on the team underneath their wing. With that kind of organization, we're hoping that it'll be easier to manage meeting times, because we have a lot of meetings currently, and we also think it would be much more efficient that way. Yeah.
I'd like to add to that I guess the basis of when we want to do more teams is making sure that all of those teams are able to lead on their own, and making sure that they create these organizations within themselves so that they have a lead, lead or someone to speak for them, and then we're able to meet with that person instead of the whole team. And creating more of that flow structure, I guess, is would make it easier in handling more teams. And that's sort of our plan for cohort 2.
Awesome. I know we're going to get kicked off in less than a minute, so I want to address Elijah's question. How can a non-student, a school or a makerspace or a business help support our organization? And the short answer is fill out our form so that we can stay in touch with you, because a lot of what we are looking for are schools and makerspaces that can be the house for these teams, and can also be the points of collaboration with students, whether that be a business needing a solution for their grocery store or whatever it is. We're constantly looking for cool opportunities for our students. So really, if there's something that you are, if you're interested in getting in touch and helping out, fill out that form, and we would love to either get a team in your school or work with your business or organization to collaborate and come up with something cool. So that is the short answer to that. But yeah, Alyssa, Mary, feel free to jump in. I know we have Elijah's question. We also have a question on design challenges from Nicole. So feel free to drop any last comments.
I think you explained that really well. I have really nothing else to add. But if any of you guys are interested, I think it would be really great if you guys could just fill out an interest form. It would be really awesome to have you guys work with us in this organization.
To maybe also knock out the last question by Nicole. So we do have younger students on our team as well. I believe, I don't know for sure, but I believe they're also middle schoolers, and they.
On the team. Actually, one of our best or most prominent makers is actually in middle school, and he has made quite a lot of ear savers, which is phenomenal. I think over 500, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, anyway, you can keep going, Mary.
Yeah, so they're heavily involved in the program as well. So I think there's no special treatment for them because they're on their own are doing really great in terms of the middle schoolers that are in our program.
I hope to have workshops where we can teach them, because I know that there are actually some people on the sewing track who want to learn 3D printing. So we're hoping in the future that we'll have classes for them so that they can also learn how to 3D print and contribute more to the organization.
My graphics, yeah, and also a lot of students who are in 3D printing want to dive into CAD, and that's something that some of our makers also specialize in, and it's great to have them teach one another, have that community of learning and teaching and growing. So I think that's also another great outcome of this organization, is that we have that.
Yeah, we've thankfully been able to teach so many students and have been able to work with them and see what they want to learn and teach them that. We're kind of really, really strong on our where we try not to have a set curriculum for the students, but we try to work around where they're at. And that's, I think, one of the best parts of getting to be part of our program, where we're really focused on actually teaching the students and giving them something valuable to them, rather than just giving them something that we think works. So that's a little bit about Makers for COVID-19, soon to be Makers for Change. We're really happy that we got a chance to share with you our story and what we're working on. But with that said, I know we have another speaker coming up, so I'm gonna let Maddie jump in.
All right, I hate how Rima always lags with my mic. Like my video comes up and then just goes away. But I want to thank you, Karina, Alysa, and Marieross, for such a wonderful panel. It was great having you, and it's so inspiring to see so many young faces. I know, Karina, you're still an undergraduate. Now, listen, Marieross, do correct me, but I'm pretty sure you're both in high school still, right?
Freshman in college.
Oh, so you're a freshman. And Alysa,
I'm a high school senior.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, so we all got some really young people in here, and I love it because that's what we like to see on the youth track. So thank you guys so much. You're welcome to turn off your camera and mic.